Hi, this is Wes.
And this is Alan.
And we would like to welcome you to the
Underground Geek Shack.
Hey, do you want to know something?
Nah, I'm in the mood. Why not?
So, remember how when we had summers, how our summers were hot?
Mm-hmm.
Well, has your summer ever consisted of time travel?
No.
Yeah, mine hasn't either. But apparently it does for what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I never actually, went to an island that I haven't been to in years and then meet up with some people that I didn't know because my friend died, I guess. And then we suddenly found another person died in the woods. And then the sister of my best friend who died has a clone that comes out of nowhere. And then I get shot. And then I'm started back from the beginning. It's just one of those normal days.
One of those normal days.
One of those normal summers.
So, we're talking about summertime rendering. And, basically what Alan just described is basically the plot of summertime rendering.
Yeah, so the plot of summertime rendering goes many different ways. Because I remember when you were mentioned to me, there was some summertime rendering. I was like, what the heck is summertime rendering? What is that? What's that title even mean?
Right.
Like, what are we rendering?
I think you actually asked me that. You're like, what are we rendering? A video? Like, no. I think I told you how I kind of had to get you into it was I was like, you like anime, right? You're like, of course, we're friends. And I'm like, do you like video game references? Do you like time travel? You said stop sounding like an advertisement.
I was about to say, do you work for the company?
Maybe I do.
What was their next line? Well, I got something for you.
I know exactly what you're going to say next.
But yeah, so I remember the first time we watched the first episode, and it's been a minute since I've watched it. I watched it recently, and we have the main character Shinpei, and Shinpei, it starts with him basically so it started with more futuristic things, some dialogue and everything about how is this gonna go, and then time travel shows up, and then he wakes up on a boat, and then he meets this woman with glasses out of nowhere, and then it does a classic anime thing where it's like, ooh, hygienic suit, I'm going to touch your chest for a bit.
The interesting thing is, when it came to Shinpei, when he was having his whole dream, it was him and his friend Ushio, and the last thing she told him was, look after Mio, which is his quote-unquote sister, and you're like, why are you telling me to look after her? Can't you look after her?
And then later on, we find out that she died because she tried to save some kid, but then she ended up drowning. Yep. And everything. And then, it starts off, kind of like normal. It really did give me all that video game vibe, even though it wasn't doing video game references where it's our main character goes to this island, hasn't been to in years, and he meets all these different characters that he knows of.
Befriend all these different and lovable characters.
Yes, and then, it started out, sad and everything, with the funeral and everything, but then weird stuff happening because someone mentions, I think, hey, I remember seeing someone who looked exactly like you in the woods.
Well, no, the thing that was interesting, that kind of for me, that kind of tipped me off as to something else was going on, was when Shinpei was at the funeral home. And when he's there, and then his friend So comes over, and he was like, hey, yo, my pops found something out during the autopsy, but I'll talk to you about it later. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Aren't we here for the dead body? What the heck happened? Then you come to find out that somebody strangled Ushio, and you're like, how, though? And then this whole thing with, yeah, there's a sickness going around called the shadow sickness. And you're just like, what the heck is the shadow sickness? And then nobody wants to talk. And then you got this old man named Nezu who's like, yeah, if you see a doppelganger who looks like you, you're gonna die. And I'm like, oh.
And as soon as you said that, it reminded me of that other anime you had me watch when we first met. What was it? What was it like?
What was it? I think it was
Black Sun or something like that.
Oh no! It was Black God.
Oh yeah, Black God.
That was...
And I remember the running joke we kept doing, from the anime was that you had this little girl who was like, yeah, I saw someone who looked exactly like me. She walked in the middle of the street and the bus came, and I was like, oh my! You were like, was it why you smiling? Because of your face? Because I was just like, oh my god!
Because you were horrified, and I was just too busy laughing at your expression. You're like, that's not funny. I was like, you're right. I'm sorry. That's not funny. But your facial expression was, I'm sorry.
So they go up in the woods, And
yeah, because Mio ended up finding who she thought was her friend Shiori.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go into the woods, and then the chick that Shinpei met on the ferry ends up getting shot.
Yeah, and that's when the violence really took. Because it was like, oh my!
Yeah,
because
right.
I think you told me that he was rated M as we're going in. And,
I think so, yeah.
And throughout the entire episode, I was like, man, nothing's really happening to, like, really, like, I'm not seeing the M rated. And then it was like, oh yeah.
You heard the gunshot go off, and you're like, wait a minute.
And then a clone of Mio comes out of nowhere, holding real Mio, be like, yeah, you like this girl? You can't protect her? Bam! And yeah, I got something for you too. Bam!
And it was interesting because the clone Mio is like, once you haven't actually finished eating until everything on your plate is cleaned off. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And then she's like, goodbye, bam. And I'm like, excuse me? And then he gets shot and then leaps back to when he was on the ferry. And I'm like, okay, so there's a time loop situation thing going on here. How does that work?
And so they do the whole classic thing. It's like, oh my god, I went back in time, and that means I know everything because at the beginning of the island, like, he saw Mio going down the bike. And what was cool about it was because of the whole time travel aspect, it really did like bring context to many things. Because before, when Mio, goes down the hill not able to use her brakes, it was like, okay, it's just a funny gag or whatever. But then finding out, I was like, oh no, her clone got her. Yeah. When he looked at it, it was like, wait a minute, someone cut your brakes.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Like at first, when she's going down the hill, and you're like, okay, why can't she stop? And then you're like, oh, it's just, like you were saying, it's just for the funny gag. And then the second time around, you're like, oh, snap. Someone cut the brakes. And then even when you see Mio going down the hill, you see her, trying to stop. And then she's like, my brakes aren't working. And I'm like, oh, snap. Someone out here literally trying to take us out.
It was the Shadow.
It was the Shadow.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, look, it's not a race thing, but it's funny when it comes to Mio and her sister. I was like, girl, why are you so much darker than her?
No, that's true. I was thinking that the entire time. I'm like, okay, so I get you two are siblings. Why are you darker than Ushia? What the heck? What happened there? Like,
yeah, and so the really cool thing about the beginning half of the season is that it really goes into more of like a mystery aspect, and then it really questions like, okay, who's a shadow, who's not a shadow,
who can you trust, who can't you trust?
Yeah, so it really brings up the horror aspect of it, because I mean, spoiler alert is that this show I feel like went from like mostly like horror mystery to straight up action. And it really does.
More toward like the later half, yeah.
Yeah, later half, because it really reflects that, especially towards the other half where they showed like the new intro and everything.
Yeah.
But just taking the first half of the season. So eventually he does like meet up with the girl that he met and everything on the boat, and they really start talking about like, hey, like I know certain things and everything because I'm bringing up things that you don't know, I know, and I know things that you know that I should know and everything. And it was funny because there's like one part where we watched the next episode, and we thought it was the beginning of the episode, right. But it was the end of the episode because it opens up with him talking to the girl who he met on the boat.
Yeah, it was Hizuru. Yeah.
And there was one moment where she was like, so, you're a time traveler. He was like, that's right. And then it plays like the credits.
The credits. And I remember you're like, well, dang, that was quick.
And it's funny because the reason why, like, he really does know that she knows more is because there's that one point where he goes back to time travel again, where they're at the festival, where things just go down.
Things go horribly wrong.
Where he gets a clone of himself. I think that's the only time in the whole series that he gets that. And the clone has a scary face. I was like, it begins. And it's like, oh my god.
Because the clone's like, oh, well, you're technically one of us. And then it's like, oh, well, I mean, I'm going to just break your arm. You're a shadow anyway. You're instantly going to heal. And it's like, everyone else is like, yo, Shinpei, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, dude, you good? And then he looks up and he's like, yep, it begins. It starts now, baby. And I'm like, that's not right.
Oh. Yeah, and then, so eventually, you know, one of the cool things is that you think the heroes have the upper hand,
right?
And then the villain's like, nah, we knew the whole time. Because remember that, you know, what was her girl with the glasses again?
Hizuru.
Hizuru, it was funny because they were like, okay, we need to go up in this house to get this shadow. Mm-hmm. Because apparently, you know, the little girl who... Shigori, who was saved by...
Ushio.
Oh, Ushio. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of names. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That much is true.
And so it finds out, it's like, wait, no, she's a shadow. Oh, wait, no, her parents are shadows.
Her whole family are shadows.
And she killed them. Mm-hmm. And eventually, you know, the girl with the glasses was like, okay, I'm going to go up in there. You know, I'm going to go, like, because she has, like, this huge, like, mallet, hammer thing. I was like, I'm going to go gate to stop her. Right. And then moments later, boy, she got thrown out that window. She was like, yo, I made a mistake. And then it was like, and the thing that got me was like, oh dang! And then the monster with the forearm came. Right. It was like bam! I was like, oh my god!
Yeah, I remember when the forearm, because like the first time we see Katakuri, Sato Katakuri, the guy with the forearms.
Yeah.
The first time we see him is at the festival when he's in his forearm state, and he grabs Shinpei and he's like, "Why do you have the original eye?" And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, spoiler. So the thing about Shinpei is that Shinpei has some blue eyes.
No, one eye is blue.
Yeah, one eye is blue, and that was the thing. It was like, wait a minute, like, I get their time travel, but what's with your eye, boy?
Right. I was like, when that happened, I was like, so were you born like that? What the heck happened?
And no one ever mentions it.
No one ever mentions it, and I'm like, that's scary.
Yeah, but you know, yeah, forearms going ham, and it turns out the little girl is actually like. I forgot, like, is she like the main?
She's like the main villain because she's the one who Hizuru befriended when she was a kid, like 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And then she's the one who technically killed Ryunosuke, who is Hizuru's brother.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we should also mention the fact that Hizuru has a split personality, which is Ryunosuke.
Yeah, because Ryunosuke befriended the little girl and everything when they were much more younger, but then because of some, like, I guess you can say magic and shadows, like, he got infused with his sister and everything, and so there's this thing where it either, like, every time you can tell, like, who's who, if their hair is up or down or not.
Yeah, because
it took me a while to pick up, because they really don't go into it. They only mention it once, and then you have to really pick it up, because there's moments where it's like, okay, Ryunosuke, you take control.
Because, like, I was trying to figure that out the first time, and I was like, so wait, which one is Ryunosuke and which one is Hizuru? And I'm like, okay, Hizuru is when her hair is down. Ryunosuke is when her hair is in the ponytail. And I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But then it was weird because when Ryunosuke was talking to Shinpei for the first time, and Shinpei was like, "Oh, aren't you the author?" And he's like, "Oh no, that's my sister." And I was like, "Wait, there's two of you?" And then I'm like,
and they did this thing where, you know, if Ryunosuke takes control, he records himself, and then so the other person can hear it.
Yeah. I mean, but that's smart, though, because that's something I never would have thought to do.
Yeah.
To sit there and have, if you have one person and then the other one doesn't really remember what happened, to have the one who's actually controlling the body at that point in time record themselves speaking, and then once Hizuru comes back, and then she can listen to it, and then she's like, oh, okay. No, that makes sense. So it's like she's actually having a phone call. Which is kind of interesting. So, like, if other people were walking past, like, I think it was, in some of the shots where, like, you would see Shinpei and Mio walking by, and then you would see Hizuru in the alleyway, and she's like, yeah, no, that makes sense. And you're like, who's she talking to? And then it turns out she's actually listening to the conversation from Ryunosuke telling her, hey, this is what's going down. And then she's like, oh, okay, no, that makes sense. Here's what we're going to do now. And it's like, oh, you two are technically making a plan, even though you're not actually in the same room.
Yeah. So the thing about the series is that, it has a lot of twists and turns. It has these moments where it's like, because of time travel, they get to play with the characters and kill them in the most aggressive ways.
Right. Even having the main character go out in many different ways, which is really weird.
Yeah, I forgot how many times he dies, but pretty much how it works, how time travel rule works for him, is that every time he dies, he doesn't just go back to the same place like he was on the boat. Yeah. He keeps on creeping closer to different points.
Closer to, different points. Like, the first time it was the boat. Then the second time it was when he was walking up the hill with Mio. And it keeps getting shorter and shorter.
And so pretty much what happens is that, it's not that Dragon Ball rule is like, oh, yeah, we can just kill the characters as many times he wants. Like, no, if a character dies, after a certain point, before he can actually go back in time and save them, then they're actually dead. So, for instance, if a character dies, but he gets, taken back in time to a point after they died, he can't bring them back or save them.
Yeah, which is kind of, because it's not like, in Dragon Ball or anything else where it's like, oh, we just have Shenron, we can easily bring them back, or it's like, no, it's like once they're gone past a certain point, then they're just gone.
Well, I say that, but then, the ending, of course.
No, that part was a little bit crazy, because you're like...
we could say it for, towards the end, but... So, one of the things that does happen is that, his, love interest girl who everyone thought it was dead actually is back, but it turns out that's her shadow and everything.
And the shadow has all the memories of Ushio before she passed. And you're like, oh...
And it turns out that Ushio and Ushio's shadow actually were friends and everything. Because there's this whole big thing of oh wait, was Ushio's shadow evil the whole time? Is he tricking them? And it turns out that, oh no, we were best friends. I just lost my memories about that.
Right, and it's just like, oh, okay. And then it's like, oh.
And also I can use my hair to fight.
It's like, oh yeah, I also got a superpower. Let me use my hair to fight and everything. And you're like, what in the world?
Yeah, so shadows have many different abilities. They have abilities to, copy different objects and everything.
It is weird how they sit there and copy different things. Because, if it's a person, from what Ryunosuke was saying, was that, if they copy someone and they, they're stunned for, a couple seconds before they can do anything else.
Yeah, but that's the thing that's the thing I just remember, You can tell when you're being copied is when somebody out of the bushes comes in with a camera flash. Because I hear it's like, oh man, it's a shadow! Everybody run!
Because even back when it was at the funeral home, and then you hear, and you're like, who the heck took a picture? And all you hear
That's right. It was like, wait, who just took a picture at the funeral? And everybody else was like, who was that?
Yeah.
And the thing about the shadows is that they kind of do this interesting thing where they're kind of made of static, because every time they get shot, they kind of have that static,
that kind of static effect.
Yeah, static effect and everything. And then I forgot if you need to shoot all of them to kill them all the way, or what is the final death knell for them?
I think you don't actually shoot them. You shoot the shadow.
You shoot the shadow. Yeah, the shadow itself. Yeah, the shadow of a shadow is the actual weakness. Yeah, to have to kill them.
Yeah, because, the way how you would be able to tell a human and a shadow apart is by looking at the ground. Because then, I think at this point, let's say there was an ant would be able to walk through the shadow, like it wasn't even there. And you're like, oh, you're not even here.
There's one part where Ryunosuke, was it put, nails gun?
Right.
Them down. They're like, oh, my shadow.
Or when the shadow of Shiori jumped out the window, and they sit there and nail her to the ground, and it's like, oh, it's good. She's not going to be able to move from that spot, and you're like, then kill her. If she can't move, take her out. But then she proceeds to slither her way into the sewers, and you're like, so what was that about not killing her and her being able to stay in one spot?
Yeah, but eventually they do find out that's not really her body. Her body's actually deep underground in the ocean, because they go into this whole lore about how this meteor came from thousands of years ago and crash landed and disguised itself as a whale at first, but then,
Yeah, that got weird. I'm like, if you're a meteor, how does a meteor disguise itself as a whale?
Yeah, and then, time travel ensues, but then they try, and then... Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
There was a lot.
Like, try to explain the whole plot of it, what happens, because it feels like the show just takes twists and turns everywhere. Because there's one point where we thought Homegirl, was dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was her name again?
You're talking about Ushio.
Yeah, Ushio. Yeah. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm bad with names, especially when it comes.
No, you're good.
I haven't seen this anime in a while, but
I've been trying to keep all the names rolling. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so there's one part where we thought Ushio was dead. But then it turns out that she put her whole memories in a necklace, was it, or a bracelet?
No, it was the shell necklace.
Yeah, the shell necklace. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. We can actually bring her back and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because, because they go back in time, but then they realize, oh, wait a minute, Ushio is supposed to show up again. And so all we gotta do is
wait until she shows back up. But you're like, okay. But then it's like, what about the actual body of Ushio? It's like, oh, well, that was cremated, so you can't really do anything about it. It's like, well, that sucks. And then we got the thing with trying to turn shadows into allies. It's like, okay, that's
interesting. Yeah, because Mio's shadow becomes an ally, and then we found out that we didn't even talk about the brother and the sister and the doctor.
I think the funny thing about that one was when you and me were watching it, and it was funny because when we actually got, we saw the friend, and then his sister Toki, and it was funny because Toki usually has her eyes closed the entire time whenever she talks, and at one point she opened her eyes and she was like, oh, well, I didn't want you to find out about this, that I've been working with the enemy this entire time. And you were like, wait a minute, you could have opened your eyes this whole time?
What was the reason again? Was it something to do with her mom or something?
No, it was something to do with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because her dad was trying to find a worthy successor to inherit the clinic or whatever, because the dad was doing shady deals with the shadows.
Yeah, because it'd be one of those things where it's like somebody died, it'd be like, oh, well, I can't say it was a shadow. Oh, it was just natural causes. Mm-hmm. Natural causes. Boy, she was 6 years old. Natural causes.
Natural causes. Totally fine. And you're like, excuse me?
And then we find out that his wife
apparently
is actually a shadow now, because his original wife died, and then, he's happy with the shadow wife and everything. And
and then he also tried to off himself when Shinpei and the gang showed up and tried to confront him about, hey, yo, you were actually working with the villains. And he's like, I had no choice. Did
he try to kill his own daughter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that much is true too. And I'm like, what?
I mean, look, she opened her eyes. It was like, Dad, like, right. I was all in. It was funny because at first I was just like, look, I don't want to do that whole thing. I'm like, oh man, she has her eyes closed. She evil. But then as soon as she gets her, like, half-head baby shadows out of nowhere, it's like, oh dang, she packing. Right. As soon as she hit it with the Get 'em Boys, I was like, oh no.
She was like, oh, you think I'm alone? Get 'em Boys. Excuse me? Who are y'all?
But then eventually she turns around, and then she has an ally, and then we have people, and then we have her and everything, and with her baby shadows to kick butt with, and everything, and as the series goes on, and you can tell by the new intro of the second half where it becomes a straight up no action anime.
Right. I was about to say, the action kind of picked up when it came to like, all right, we got all these pieces, we're gonna go to war, and it's like, war? Excuse me? Yeah, we're gonna fight in this gymnasium.
I forgot, what was the reason why nobody else showed up on that beach? Because there's one part, where they have like a big battle with 4 arms on the beach.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just like, my thought was like, is no one gonna like come up, on a nice day, look at the beach and be like, is that guy with 4 arms? Like, oh my God, what is happening?
Oh my gosh. You know how funny that would have been? Would have been like, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm gonna go, enjoy the day at the beach. Hold up. Is that a chick fighting with the hammer against a dude with 4 arms? Hey, yo! When did we get a dude with 4 arms? Help him go to the priest!
But yeah, I mean, depending on like what you like, because to me it kind of reminds me of what was it? What was the anime called where had the orphans and they were on the farm, but they were really being bred to be eaten?
You're talking about Promised Neverland.
Yeah, Promised Neverland.
I was like, orphans? When did we watch a show about orphans? And then you were like, aliens. I was like, oh.
Yeah, because it kind of reminds me of Promised Neverland,
where
Promised Neverland, the reason why people really liked it at the beginning of the first season because it's all about, the mystery and
I was about to say that,
trying to be sneaky and everything
that
and doing all this stuff.
That one did a good job with season 1.
But then as you get in season 2, it more leans to action.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, depending on who you are, because at first, when it first started, of course, with the shadows and everything, it's like, oh my God, this whole big mystery, what's actually happening? This is cool. But then as it kind of goes along, it becomes more action oriented, especially with your girl with the hair and everything.
Yep. It's like you can tell that the action that they leaned heavily into the action more toward the end because it was like, all right, when Masato Katakiri was like, all right, fine, let's throw hands. We doing this. We fighting the final boss. It's going to be me and you. And at this point, you have Shinpei and Ryanosuke fighting together, and you're just like, okay, cool. And then Ryanosuke's like, hey, yo, I'm sorry I gotta do some of these, acrobatic type moves that your body is not used to.
Oh, yeah, because I forgot they joined after a while. It's funny because I remember looking back on it. Because, was it Ryanosuke, his voice?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, how old are you? Because that's a very high-pitched voice. I think it sounded just like, oh no, what are we gonna do?
I think it was funny because at one point Ryanosuke's like, I'll be able to shoot the gun, and I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? You sound like a kid. Can you handle the gun?
I'm trying to remember other parts of it. All I remember was there was a big fight in the gym where they got the upper hand.
Yeah, that one was interesting though. The fight at the gym was you're like, okay. And then the explosion happened, and then apparently that's how... No, because Katakuri was trying to sit there and keep Shinpei alive, because they were like, oh, well, if we keep you alive, you won't be able to travel back in time. You won't be able to go back in time and then afford all of our plans. And...
Yeah, because there's one moment, at the beginning where, because Shinpei, looked at the villain as he was going back in time, she was like, oh, I get to go back with you too.
Right, yeah, so that was the weird thing. And
so there was this one brief moment where it felt like the villains were constantly getting the upper hand, everything. That's why Four Arms got the jump on on
Hizuru, and Ryanosuke, yeah.
And everything, but then, towards later half, they started getting some wins in, which, that was the more, entertaining part of it was, okay, seeing who gets the upper hand, who's winning, because they're trying to do this whole, chess and, checkmate scenario where it's like, aha, you think you know this, but I know this too. Or, aha, you think this is secret, but I knew it all along.
The weird thing was when the villain sat there and was like, oh, you know what? How about we split up the heroes? And you're like, okay. And you're like, so how you gonna do that? And then you get Shinpei gets a phone call from his shadow self, and you're like, we haven't seen you in a minute, my boy. What the heck you doing here?
Because he got copied at the house and everything.
No, I think that time...
No, at the funeral.
That was at the... Was it at the funeral?
Yeah, the funeral house. I don't know.
No, because the first time that they copied Shinpei was at the festival. Mm-hmm. And then they just never used that all the way up until they decided, hey, we gotta split the team. And then they just decided, oh yeah, since we copied you at the festival, we just have you now. And you're just like, what the heck? That's weird. And then the shadow version of Shinpei's just like, oh yeah, I just gotta update my memory from time to time. That's pretty much it. And you're like, okay. And then they're just like, hey, either you save Mio or you save Hizuru. Which one you want? And so the first time he went in to go save Mio, and then it's just like, Katakiri was like, hey, yo, you made the wrong decision, my boy. And then still ends up killing Mio. And then goes to see Hizuru. Hizuru gets bodied too, because she's fighting Four Arms. And you're like, I'm gonna go back. and redo this whole scenario all over again. And I'm gonna go save Hizuru this time.
If you're very squirmish when it comes to fun, guns, and blood and everything, this show I think is not for you because it's one of those things where they do kind of do the whole suicide thing of I need to go back in time. Bam.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh well, let me just take myself out, or let me drink this poison. You're like, what the heck? So yeah, if you're not really big on the whole blood and guts and violence, you might want to skip this one.
Yeah, I mean, look. As much as we're describing all the violence and everything, people getting their heads bashed in and people getting choked out, people dying, and all this horror when it comes to shadows, the show really does end on a very, very happy note.
Yeah, I was about to say it ends on a really happy note.
Everyone's alive. Everyone's back. There's no real, there's no big sacrifice towards the end.
Ryunosuke is actually a full-grown adult at this point and actually has a kid. And her name is that's right, because Ryunosuke ends up naming his daughter Haine. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, because when we heard, Haine, we're like, oh snap, here we go again. We're gonna have to fight the shadows again. And it's like, oh no, dude, that's my daughter.
No, we killed the shadows in the past.
Right, and so when we heard Ryunosuke go, oh, Haine's here, and everyone's like, oh snap, we're gonna celebrate Haine's birthday. I was like, isn't it the shadow though? What the heck happened? And then he's like, oh, that's my kid. That's my kid. And I was like, oh, I was like, wait a minute. You got kids? Buddy, congrats.
Yeah, so the very last episode is pretty much just that, no, everything's fine. And throughout the whole thing, I was like, okay, when's the shoe going to drop? And towards the end, there's like, oh no, just fireworks. Everybody's happy. Big kiss at the end. It was like, oh, well, thank you, I guess. I don't know, something about it, because throughout the whole season, it felt like we have to be consequences. You can't go back in time to a certain point. People are dying left or right. Oh, this whole big sadness. Nope, everyone lives happily ever after. Everything's good.
And I think the interesting thing is that even though it ends on a happy note, I also like how it ended for Hizuru, because Shinpei was able to remember a majority of what he had went through. And so when he got back to Hizuru, he's like, hey, I got a strange idea. He just forms it as an idea. And he's like, what if your next book involves this? And he basically just displays everything that he went through, but as this other character. And then Hizuru's like, yeah, I'm going to type all this out, buddy. This is going to be the next great hit. I remember you looked at me, you said, is this how you get whenever you work on a story? And I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, for some random person come, but you'd be like, yo, I had a dream once. You'd be like, I don't care.
I don't care. Continues typing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things we need to talk about is it turns out Four Arms, who we thought was the lackey, is actually the big bad. Right. Because he was actually the priest.
That was the weirdest curve that I had ever seen. And I was like, it can't be the priest. It can't be the priest. And then when Shinpei showed up to the priest, and he was like, hey, you're actually Four Arms. And then the priest is like, how did you know? And I was like, hey, yo, my dude, what? And then he was like...
And it turns out Four Arms is not really a shadow. He just uses... I forgot what it was.
I think he just used the shadow as armor.
Yeah, as armor and everything.
It was weird, because the one thing he kept saying was, oh, now I can unplug the console from the game. And I'm like...
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. Where towards the end of the final boss, we're pretty much in the Matrix. Mm-hmm. And that was like, now I can unplug... I forgot... It's been a while since, because I haven't rewatched the ending in a minute.
Something along the lines of he unplugged the console from the game,
so he can live forever.
Yeah,
and everything it's like unplugging a console in the game. I'm like, boy, when did you become a nerd? Four Arms hasn't talked like this throughout the entire season, but suddenly out of nowhere, now you're talking about game consoles and video games.
And then making a reference to Final Fantasy. You're like, what in the world?
I'm like, what? We have never seen you pick up a controller or talk about any kind of video game reference or RPG, and suddenly now you're talking about
now you want to be a nerd.
But eventually he gets his butt whooped towards the end, There's this whole big hooray, and, it ends happily.
Ends happily ever after. For the heroes, by the way.
Oh yeah, for him, he's dead.
Yeah. I would say go and watch it if you're not... If blood and guts don't scare you, go watch it. If it does, go find another anime.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you go into it knowing there's a happy ending, I think it is. I think it is adorable. For some people, they don't like that because it's like, hey, like it felt like, what was the point of everything being wrapped up in a pretty bow? If like, what was the point of all that? Like having consequences, now going towards the end and having no consequences. Everything's
one
happy.
Interesting. And I don't mean to cut you off. One interesting thing that I thought that I just popped into my head. So when Mio and Shinpei are walking back to Alan's house, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dad, not you. When Mio tells Shinpei, she's like, oh, so how's Shibuya? How's Tokyo? And then she's like, oh, you lost your country twang. And I'm like,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because on the island, everyone speaks. So if nobody knows, like if you haven't read the manga, there's a manga by the same name. In the manga, everyone on the island speaks with a country accent, whereas in Tokyo, everyone just speaks regular.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that when I remember when she first brought it up, I was like, oh yeah, you lost your accent. I'm like, have you not heard stuff? You lost your accent. And I've been listening to everyone else around here. I'm like, what accent?
Right.
Y'all all sound the same.
Right. I was like, she's like, yeah, you lost your accent. I'm like, you don't have an accent. What are you talking about? And I'm just like, and then when I read the first 3 chapters of the manga before it ended, and I was like,
howdy y'all, my name is Mio.
Yeah, because like she literally would say y'all. I was like, is that a country accent? And then I read the last 3 chapters, and I was like, nope, that's a country accent. All right, cool. But yeah, so after you have watched Summertime Rendering, did you like it?
Oh no, like I really did like it. Of course, I was glued in every time we would watch it and everything. I just noticed like the tone kind of changed, going from more like mystery and more on the horror side to like, okay, now you know everything. Let's get straight into action. There was that big old transition, which I mean, I kind of like, but some moments I kind of was like, I kind of did miss the whole horror aspect of it because it kept things, again, in my opinion, much more interesting than just being like okay, we're just fighting,
right?
That kind of thing.
Kind of you delve more from the psychological horror to more just straight up shonen.
Yeah. Especially when everybody started getting out random powers. I'm like, I can do my hair now. And there was no really explanation. It was just like, okay, like, I get it because shadows can manipulate their bodies and everything. But it was just funny where it's like, what's my superpower? Hair move.
Hair move.
And I knew it was more going towards action where you had, what was her name again with the hair? Ushio, where she came back and she was just like, Ushio, how you feel? I am better than
Oh man.
And I was like, okay, I'm still liking it, but I did miss the whole mystery horror aspect of it at the beginning.
Oh man, because like toward the end, right, when it came down to Ushio trying to like house both of the powers, it was weird because she was like, well, I'm gonna just send you back to you being in Tokyo. And I'm like, wait, you can do that? And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna just restart the whole thing, and except when you wake up, you're not gonna remember any of what we went through. And I'm like, so you just became a god at this point? Like, what the heck? And she's like, when before I send you back, make sure you send me Ushio a call. At least check in on her. And I'm like, so you giving me advice before I go back to Tokyo? Okay, this is gonna be one heck of a dream. And then when you woke up, and then you get a phone call from Ushio, and it's just like, hey yo, you coming over for the festival or whatever? And I'm like, oh, that's actually going on.
Oh yeah, because there's one plot point where it's like, okay, we need to stop them before the festival because because the villain's gonna eat everybody.
And then it's like. And then I think when he got back to the hometown and everything, and then when he sees everyone, he starts crying, and then they're like, "Dude, you good?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know why I'm crying." And I'm like, could it be the past experiences of you watching all of your friends get killed? And then he's like, "I'm just glad you're all safe." And they're like,
Oh, that just reminded me. Because they don't actually, quote unquote, eat them. So what happens is that, they just consume them. Yeah. But it leaves like a black, like, mark.
Yeah, kind of like a black outline.
Black outline.
And you're just like, okay. Like an ash mark on the ground here. Like,
and there's one point with a little girl who's a villain, but it turns out has a tragic bad story. She's like, hurry up, I want to eat. I was like, girl, calm down.
She's like, hurry up, I want to eat. And I'm like, slow your roll. Don't worry, your food's coming. Calm down.
Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy Summertime Rendering and, everything. I don't know if it's like one of my top animes I will go back to and everything. But, if I, Halloween's coming up, I might just watch it, a little bit of it.
Yeah, I'll probably do the same. I mean, I'm already doing that right now. I'm already going back through. And I'm like, okay, I only just want to watch one episode. And I'm like, nah, I need one more episode. I'm good. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because that helps us out a lot over here at the Underground Geek Shack. Anything you want to leave them off on before we end?
Be careful of shadows, If you see someone who's exactly like me, either their evil twin or just a shadow, so you just need to get a good shotgun and...
Run! Well, thanks for listening, and we hope you've enjoyed your visit to...
The Underground Geek Shack.
See you guys.
Maestro.